Recently, I was on a very long flight to the big island of Hawaii to teach at the Youth with the Mission School there, where I had been invited to teach a class on biblical moral reasoning or Christian ethics and crisis intervention as it applies to women and couples in a pregnancy-related crisis. I was thrilled to do it. On the long flight, I was doing some reading. Right now, I'm reading through this book here. It's called Thoughts and Sentiments on the Evil of Slavery. After reading it for a while, I set it down, and the lady sitting next to me was intrigued, and she said, "I see you're involved with some light reading." Obviously, the topic is serious and sobering, and she was kind of entering in the conversation. Here's an actual copy of the front page of the book as it was written by Ottobah Cugoano many, many years ago. I believe in around 1787 he wrote this book. Who is Ottobah Cugoano? He was a young boy growing up in Ghana who was captured when he was 13 years old. He was out playing with his friends, and it was typical of that time. People were being captured and then taken down to the Gold Coast and sold into slavery. Ottobah was shipped then to the island of Grenada in the West Indies. And 2 years later, he was sold to a British businessman who took him back to England, taught him how to read and write, highly educated him, and helped him to purchase his freedom. Later on then, he wrote this book, Thoughts and Sentiments on the Evil of Slavery. What I love about this book is that he spends a great deal of time trying to think biblically. Ottobah became a very devout Christian, was baptized into the Christian faith when he was about 15 or 16 years old. And he wrote this book to help the Christian world understand the evil of slavery and to help them respond biblically in the same way that today we're trying to help people think through the evil of abortion and energize the Christian community of this generation to fight for the abolition of the shedding of innocent blood. Listen to what he says about slavery and how he thinks about it. He says, "Suppose that some of the African pirates made excursions to the coast of Great Britain, and they should carry off your sons and your daughters and your wives and friends to a perpetual and barbarous slavery. You would certainly think that those African pirates were justly deserving of any punishment that could be put upon them." In writing this, he's trying to take the foundational principle of biblical moral reasoning to do for others as you would want them to do for you, and applies it to the abolition of slavery. This is biblical moral reasoning at its best. And this book did have an impact. Ottobah went on to join a team or a group of other African former slaves themselves who were also working toward the abolition of slavery. One of them was Ottobah Cugoano, and he wrote a book, The Interesting Narrative of the Life of Ottobah Cugoano. And I'm going to read this book this week. You might be asking, why are you doing all this reading? Well, here's the deal. I am headed off to Zambia in about 3 weeks, less than 3 weeks. And I'm going to be meeting with people from 23 different countries throughout Africa who are working in the field of pregnancy crisis intervention, along with a number of pastors from these different countries who are coming. And I'm going to speak to them 3 times. And one of the things that I want to do there is to show them that what we're doing today in the abolition of abortion as a moral imperative is not new. It's just our turn to do it. Whether you go back to the midwives in Egypt who had to defend their own little baby boys from being murdered, or whether you're talking about enslaving and stealing people and selling them and trafficking in human flesh, or whether you're talking about the trafficking of human flesh in abortion, you're dealing with a preeminent moral crisis. And what we're doing today is not new, it's just our turn. And I want to be able, while I'm in Africa, to point to some of the heroes of Africa that lived in previous generations that also answered the same foundational biblical call to rescue the innocent and defend the weak and the oppressed. And I'm going to be taking with me 7 handheld ultrasound machines and 7 iPads that use that. The iPad becomes a screen for this ultrasound. And we're going to be placing these in the hands of medical professionals there so that they can help women and couples see their unborn babies. I'm also going to be taking about 35 boxes of fetal models. This is the new PassionLife Tiny Baby, 50 in a box. I'll be taking just under 2,000 of these with me to Africa to distribute. And we'll be taking other resources, particularly for the pastors that I'll be training so that they can go back and train the other pastors in their town or areas and continue to summon and rally and multiply the numbers of people in the neediest places in the world to stand up for the gospel of life and begin to oppose abortion as the shedding of innocent blood, to rally to the rescue of women and couples under pressure to abort their baby, and to do so in a way that is an outworking of their own commitment to Christ and the gospel, and is infectious in all of the work that they do, so that they're not only rescuing the innocent, but they're bringing good news to the guilty. This is an exciting period, and I think that of all the things I'm going to do this year, it may well be that this trip to Africa proves to be the most substantive and potentially life-changing. And I welcome your prayers and your support, and I leave on the 22nd of this month. Thank you.